Welcome back to the Birdhouse Dynasty Show and our top 5 free agency moves. We've had a lot of action so far this week as we come upon the official opening to the NFL free agency period. We've had the tampering period going on so far, actually, so it's not like moves haven't been made, but nothing's technically been official yet. Some of the trades, I guess, would be official, but we have that opening today occurring, and we want to go over some of the moves that have already been pretty much made official. And we'll start things off right with Sam Darnold. That would be the top move, I'd say, because in Dynasty, at least, this pertains to our Superflex leagues, at least most importantly. This is one of the major moves that occurred. It gives some stability to the Seahawks quarterback room. You know, they traded away Geno Smith last Friday to the Raiders and picked up a third rounder for that. Then they went ahead and traded DK on Sunday night because of the money. And now they were able to use that money they would have spent on DK Metcalf instead to stabilize their quarterback room. And so they also picked up a second in that DK Metcalf deal. So basically, they signed Sam Darnold and gained a second and third rounder, just losing DK, really. They shift from Geno to Darnold in the quarterback room. So I'm sure now, having 5 picks in the first 3 rounds, they'll be able to draft a wide receiver. They'll probably pick up another wide receiver in free agency. There's still plenty of names out there. Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, just to name a couple. So there is still guys that Seattle can go out there and get to help fill the wide receiver room with the loss of DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, who they cut earlier in the month. So Darnold brings, let's see, what does he bring? Well, he has the talent. We all know his troubles that he went through dealing with the Jets organization, then going to Carolina, which was another disaster. But then he got some good tutoring in San Francisco and went on to perform extremely well with the help of J.J. McCarthy's injury. Darnold had nobody looking over his shoulder really last year, and he probably won't have that so much in Seattle. I mean, Sam Howell is still there, but I think with the money invested in Darnold, he really shouldn't be worried about Sam Howell taking over for him at all. Now, what does this do for the Seahawks offense? Well, this definitely bumps JSN's value. I don't know how much higher you want to really put him. It definitely solidifies him in his role, and you can put him as high as a top 10 dynasty asset. Him and Garrett Wilson, Drake London, sort of all in the same area right now. I personally would throw Rashee Rice in there, but that depends on how you feel about him and his situation. But JSN, I think, is a solid number 1 wideout now. He's going to get hyper targeted from Sam Darnold. Now, next up, we're going to stick with the quarterback position and move all the way across the country to New York, where the Jets brought in Justin Fields on a 2-year, $40 million deal from the Pittsburgh Steelers last year. He started 6 games, did pretty well, at least for us fantasy-wise. You know, Fields has, of course, that rushing upside. Not the greatest passer, though, and that's what led to him being benched in Pittsburgh. Now he gets the opportunity to fully have the job to himself and show what he can do. He's got a 2-year deal here with the Jets. We'll see if the Jets still decide to pick a quarterback in the first or second round. I don't know, with that kind of money invested. It's not like Sam Darnold money, $33 million a year, but it's enough that it's not a $5 or $8 or $10 million prove it deal type like Baker Mayfield got when he went to Tampa first. That was only a $4 million deal. So with 20 million invested in him, I think that it's pretty safe to say Fields will likely be the Jets quarterback for the next 2 seasons. Again, though, if they decide to take like a Jackson Dart where they move back in the first and grab him, or grab him with their second round pick if he's still there, who knows where Dart's going to get drafted right now, but or even maybe Quinn Ewers at the top of the second. I don't know. I'm not a guy that loves Ewers, but he could be somebody that the Jets may look at. But back to Fields and what he does for this Jets offense. He helps solidify the run game for the Jets. We all know that when you get a rushing quarterback in the building, that definitely helps out the running backs because of the attention that like the safeties have to put onto the quarterback, and maybe a middle linebacker having to spy the quarterback. So this should definitely help out Breece Hall, at least in his last season with the Jets. Who knows if they decide to pay the man. I can't imagine Breece Hall wanting to stay in New York, but now with Justin Fields, maybe that changes things. Who knows? And then for their wide receivers, they lost Devontae Adams along with Aaron Rodgers, and now Garrett Wilson's left alone in the building, basically. And we all know DJ Moore got hyper-targeted by Justin Fields, leading to a top 10 season for him. So I'm not too worried about Garrett Wilson. Even with Fields' struggles, I think that Wilson will be so targeted, like we're talking a 25 to 30% target share here for Garrett Wilson, that I don't know that Wilson can get up to top 5 range with Fields, but he's looking like he can be up around the 10th ranked wide receiver, right with JSN, where we had with Sam Darnold, the previous guy I talked about. All right. So as far as value goes with these two quarterbacks now, Darnold had more value dynasty-wise prior to these signings. Now, with the signings, I see them both pretty equal, and I would probably bump them both up a little bit. Now, I foresaw these signings, but at least with Justin Fields, I wasn't sure what kind of situation he was going to get. Darnold, I pretty much assumed he was going to get the starter's role. 3 years is about what I expected. But with Fields, Fields has a higher ceiling week to week. And so I'm personally liking him more. And, if Darnold is going for a late first, early second, or at least that's what his owners want, you can imagine what the Justin Fields owners want now. So expect to pay a late first for Justin Fields. Sam Darnold, you might be able to squeeze him out for just an early second. But if you need help in your quarterback room, that's the price you got to pay. I mean, it's that, or you draft a rookie like Cam Ward this year, and you have to get up into the early to mid first rounds. It's Cam Ward right now projected in rookie drafts. He could go anywhere from, 102 to 106, really. Kind of just depends on the needs of the teams picking in those spots. Shedeur Sanders is also there, and his value is pretty polarizing now. I mean, if he goes right behind Cam Ward in the real NFL draft at 102, I could see Shedeur Sanders going all the way as high as 103 in a rookie draft, and then I've seen mocks where he falls all the way to like the 110. So pretty wide range there for Shedeur Sanders. So that's what you're looking at. If you're needing a quarterback, I would have no problem going out and going after either Fields or Sam Darnold right now. Okay. Next up, we're going to move over to the running back position, and the Los Angeles, or I keep wanting to say San Diego Chargers, but the Los Angeles Chargers scoop up Najee Harris, pay him pretty handsomely. I mean, a $9.5 million deal just for 1 year, though. But that really leads me to believe that Najee is going to continue his career arc, and that is a 300 touch, 1,000-yard season with anywhere from 6 to 10 touchdowns. can pretty much lock it up. That's what they're going to bring him in here for. I don't see the Chargers now using their first round pick on a running back, but I could see them still using a second or third round pick on a running back. Dobbins is gone, Gus Edwards is gone, so all they have pretty much left is Kamani Vidal. So they're still going to pick up a running back, and Hassan Haskins is there, I guess. Now, I could see Harbaugh definitely going after maybe one of his two old Michigan backs, Khalil Mullings or Donovan Edwards. Those guys he could probably get in rounds 4, 5, or 6. So those would be the type of guys I could see Jim Harbaugh now going towards. I definitely don't see it making much sense to pay somebody $9.5 million and then turn around and pay a first rounder at the running back position. So, because the Chargers still need help elsewhere, right? They still need a wide receiver. Will Keenan Allen come back home? Who knows? But they got Ladd McConkey, but they still need a little help there for Justin Herbert. I would see a first-round wide receiver as a much better option. But who knows if they're going to go skill position anyway in the first round there. But anyway, Najee Harris, very solid back. This bumps his value back up. He had kind of gotten a negative perception in the public with his mediocre play, so to speak. I guess the problem with Najee is that he was drafted so highly in our rookie drafts. Like there were some leagues that year where he was going 102. All right. He went ahead of Herbert and Tua, and obviously it's shown that he probably shouldn't have, but with the same token, like he has performed, so you can't be too hard on the guy. And now he's going to the Chargers where he's probably got an opportunity to get more touchdowns. So now he's back on the radar. I think an early second is probably what you're looking at having to pay for Najee. Like he's in that range of, I'll pay the 205, 206, 207, but I don't know if I want to pay that early second. So like, do you want Najee Harris or Caleb Johnson if he's there? I don't know that Caleb Johnson's even going to fall to the early second, right? So, I mean, with that price in mind, I don't mind getting Najee Harris, even if it's just a 1-year deal. He performs like he has. He's probably going to be able to either re-sign with the Chargers or get another, maybe a 2 or 3-year deal even from somebody else, where he could go and do basically the same thing. So Najee Harris, not elite, but not bad either. So he's definitely a piece that fits into most rosters. I know a lot of my rosters, he'd fit in very nicely as the RB2 or 3. So, I mean, I build a lot of my teams around the wide receivers. So if that's how you've built your wide receiver rooms, very strong, and then your running back rooms not quite as strong, Najee is somebody that you can plug and play just about every week. I don't think he's missed a game in his career. So, like, he's about as stable as it gets, not flashy, but gets the job done, comes to work with his heart at, and that's why the Chargers paid him. They didn't invest long-term in him, but they paid him good for 1 year. As you can see with the next guy we bring up here, and that's Javonte Williams going to the Dallas Cowboys. Javonte only got $3 million for 1 year. And so you compare the two, like both of these guys were pretty highly regarded in the same draft. Like I said, Najee was going early first, Javonte usually mid first in that draft. And so now Javonte goes to the Cowboys, who didn't re-sign Rico Dowdle. Zeke Elliott, I don't know what he's going to do. And so you're looking at Javonte in a room now with nobody else. And, I mean, I'm going to double check. I can't right now. I wanted to see if Zeke was actually there, but it really doesn't matter because Zeke's basically washed. But point I'm getting at with Javonte is just a $3 million deal. He didn't look great in Denver last year, but some of that had to do, I think, with Denver's O-line. Like, I know Bo Nix had a great season, but he was scrambling a lot. That's what helped lead to a good fantasy output from Bo Nix, at least. But Javonte, he did have good receiving numbers still. His rushing per attempt was bad, all right? And the Cowboys' O-line is not as good as you think it is. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Cowboys decide to do. Like, pick 12, they could still draft Ashton Jeanty if he's there, right? Or they wait to the second round and grab whatever of the top 5 running backs are still available. Because who's to say how many running backs of these stud rookie running backs get drafted in the first round? There might be only Jeanty and maybe only Jeanty. Maybe Omarion Hampton's still there in the early second, right? So, but if Hampton's gone, you still have Quinshon Judkins, Travion Henderson, or Caleb Johnson that would all fit in well with the Cowboys offense. So I just think that this kind of signing leads me to believe they'll grab a guy at least in the second or third round. But if not, it wouldn't shock me based off of what Jerry Jones said about the running back position last season, and that it's basically the cheapest position in football. So that would almost make me believe that Jerry would possibly just bring in Kareem Hunt on a cheap deal and then draft a 5th or 6th round running back, or just bring in a couple of undrafted free agents at running back. So who knows what Jerry's thinking. He's kind of getting senile in his age, and I don't know. It's unfortunate for the Cowboys and their fans. I don't hate them. I don't love them either, but the fans deserve a little better now. I think they really need to get a guy that is actually a GM in there. But for Javonte, late second, early third, you can probably try and pry him away. This is a selling opportunity if you had Javonte Williams, and just want to get rid of him. I don't mind getting rid of him for a third. You're going to be able to get a good rookie running back for a third rounder this year. So that'd be fine by me. I'd be looking more on the sell end than the buy end here for Javonte Williams. All right, next up, we're going to get into a couple of wide receivers, and we'll start off with the DK Metcalf deal, just because that was probably the most publicized one, being that he landed the big contract then, a 5-year, $150 million deal. 4-year. 4-year? It was a 4-year extension. That's what it is. All told, it's $150 million. It's an $18 million deal. Stayed the same for this year. So, yes, it's a 5-year, $150 million deal, all told. But DK leaving Seattle, again, opened the door for JSN to now completely control that wide receiver room. And over in Pittsburgh, it becomes interesting now with George Pickens still being there, and Pickens going into the last year of his rookie contract. He was a second-round pick, so he doesn't have a 5th-year option that the Steelers could take. So the Steelers either need to extend him now or, wait and let him play and then maybe franchise tag him. I don't think that you want to franchise tag somebody like Pickens. That seems like a little steep to pay somebody like Pickens. I like Pickens, the player. The attitude is the thing that's always in question. I think this is going to be great drama if Pickens stays. You've got DK, Pickens, Arthur Smith at the offensive coordinator spot there, and then potentially Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. Whew, this could get exciting. So I like Aaron Rodgers signing here because I think that with Arthur Smith and his play calling and, not just from a fantasy perspective how much we hated him in Atlanta, but like I think that the quarterback didn't have enough intelligence there with Desmond Ridder to override Arthur Smith. I think that Rodgers going there may actually be good because Rodgers, has no problem overriding offensive coordinator's play call. So I think that Rodgers going there could actually be good for DK and Pickens stats wise, right? It's hard to see because neither of these guys is really an over the middle or type receiver. These guys both run 9 routes like crazy and they're good at them. But now DK, with out of his routes run last year, which was, I believe it was like 110 routes or targets, 45 of them actually were short to intermediate routes. So he wasn't as bad as Pickens. Pickens, on the other hand, he had about the same amount of targets, but like less than 20 were short or intermediate routes. So a lot of deep routes for Pickens. So could it work? Yes. I do think you need a quarterback, though, like an Aaron Rodgers to come in and be the guy. Russell Wilson obviously is being mentioned to return there. And we know that DK and Russ are good friends from their days in Seattle. Their wives both are friends. So like this could just happen that way. And then maybe they shuffle off Pickens for whatever draft pick they could get for him. He just seems Pickens seems like a tough guy to kind of trade right now. Like DK has pride and heart when he's playing, and sometimes that gets the best of him. But with Pickens, it's just like he's a jerk for no reason, and it hurt. Actually, that turns the team itself off and the locker room off. I don't think anybody in Seattle hated DK. DK was doing things usually when the game was already out of hand. Pickens, though, is doing things right in the middle of the game that's turning teammates away as well. But if anything knows about that kind of drama, it'd be Aaron Rodgers, and maybe you just throw all of them in the mix together and it just becomes something that actually works. I don't know what Pittsburgh is looking for, but Mike Tomlin deserves at least a nomination for the Nobel Peace Prize if Rodgers comes to town. All right. Next up, we're going to talk about another big-time receiver, and that would be Davante Adams taking his talents and route running ability over to the LA Rams for Matthew Stafford, second wide receiver here opposite Puka Nacua. I love this move for Davante. I think that he'll still put up huge numbers. Davante, you could probably pry. I pried him off of somebody for a couple of running backs in Kendre Miller and Tank Bigsby. Now, I don't know that you can get that done in your league, but, Tank and Kendre Miller are part of that class where they were all taken in the second round that year. Zach Charbonnet was part of it as well. And so they're kind of hanging in limbo. All of them have a shot to be their team's guy this year, but at the same time, they don't, and they could get vultured by a rookie as well this year. So it's those guys are tough to deal right now. But if you try and hit up the owner of the handcuff back, I'm talking ETN and Kenny Walker, you could try and get rid of those guys, Alvin Kamara as well for Kendre Miller. And so this is where you might only get 1 year out of Davante. I know he signed for 2 years, but I'm only looking at it as a 1 year rental. I bought him on a contending team. If you've got a contending team and want a good, solid 4th, 5th wide receiver on your squad, Davante is going to get points. Stafford knows how to throw the football. I don't think this is bad for Puka Nacua at all. I think that the top 2 wide receivers are so hyper targeted in that offense there with the Rams that both Puka and Davante will eat in LA. So moving on to the next one, that was Deebo Samuel signing last Friday. I talked about it a little before on a previous video, but Deebo going there definitely helps solidify Jaden Daniels value, giving him another option opposite Terry McLaurin, something they did not have last season. They were trying to use Olamide Zaccheaus and Diami Brown. Diami Brown went to Jacksonville and just signed yesterday. But Debo can be a playmaker. Dude, if he's healthy, this guy can make it happen. And so this is a big win now move for the Commanders, bringing in a guy like Debo. You could even see them still bringing in a rookie wide receiver too, to help the wide receiver room out for Jaden Daniels. I like it. I wouldn't mind paying like a late second for Debo Samuel. I don't know that I go any higher than that, though. I don't see like Debo compared to Devontae Adams. Give me Devontae all day long, even though he's 3 years older. But I'm not totally out on Debo if you are a contending team. And then we also have Christian Kirk, who at first looked to be being cut from the Jaguars and then was traded to the Texans for a 7th round pick. So point being, Kirk is now in Houston. He helps out that wide receiver room that's been decimated by injuries. Stephon Diggs got hurt, and then Tank Dell now out for most likely most of the 2025 season. So now Kirk comes in. I don't think Kirk's going to steal any targets away from Nico Collins. So Nico is definitely safe there, but this gives CJ Stroud at least another veteran solid option there. And so this is more of a just, if you want a wide receiver on your bench, I guess you could go out and get him, but this gives, in my mind, if you own Christian Kirk, this is a selling opportunity. Go out and get a third for him. I don't care. That's about where he's valued at. So then we've got a couple more signings from free agency. These were 2 re-signings, so they kind of went under the radar, but I want to emphasize the importance of these 2 signings because they solidified their team's offenses. First one is for my Tampa Bay Bucks, and they were able to keep Chris Godwin for 3 years and just $66 million. Reports are out there that he could have taken $20 million more to go to like New England or Carolina. Who knows if those are true? But I do believe that Godwin could have gotten more on the open market, even with him coming off of the injury, because the Bucs signing him shows that their doctors know that Godwin's going to be ready to play this upcoming season. Godwin, of course, helps form the 1-2 punch with him and Mike Evans. So that definitely solidifies Baker Mayfield's status. They can keep Jalen McMillan as the number 3, which is awesome. It definitely puts a damper on all those hopes for the Jalen McMillan owners who were hoping Godwin would go elsewhere and bump his status up. I think that McMillan's value will fall a little because of this. But as far as Godwin and Mike Evans go, they're both guys that you can try and get for early seconds. I don't know that I want to pay an early or a late first for either of them. Like, it comes down to, do you want Igbuka or Luther Burden, or do you want old Chris Godwin or Mike Evans? So if you're contending, I wouldn't have a problem with wanting Godwin or Evans because they're both more likely to put up higher numbers this season than Igbuka and Luther Burden. However, depends where those 2 guys land. Like, either of them could land in a situation that puts them as the wide receiver 1 on their teams, right? More than likely, though, they're going to land in a spot where they're the wide receiver 2 and thus limiting the upside for them. But nonetheless, both are talented, and I like both of them as wide receivers. Just if you want to contend this year, Godwin and Evans are better options. And back to Baker Mayfield, this just helps solidify his chances. I don't know that he can match last year's numbers, but if he can come within 10% of last year's numbers, I'd be more than happy in the leagues that I do own Baker in. And if you own Baker, I don't think this is really the time to sell him because he's probably looking at another 1 or 2 good years ahead of him. He's got, unless you're using Baker to tier up to a younger quarterback, I don't like trading Baker right now. I don't know that I don't want to tier down to Trevor Lawrence, okay, unless you're getting a first on top of that. I don't want to tier down, and I want to go down to the next lower level like Sam Darnold or Justin Fields either, because like Darnold is going into an entirely new situation. Do you want Darnold in a first or Baker Mayfield? That'd be a very risky move. Now, if you need a first to help give yourself some more youth or bodies, I could see it as an option. It kind of depends on how important Baker is to your team. Like if Baker is your solid number 2, and then you're going to bring in Darnold. Darnold's okay as a 2. I mean, I've got him on teams, Darnold. I would much rather have Baker. Would I pay Darnold in a first to get up to Baker? That's a good question. I mean, I paid, what did I pay? I paid JJ McCarthy in a first to get to Justin Herbert last year, late in the season. And that was because I was contending, and we had Dak Prescott hurt as well. So all we had was Darnold. And that shows my complete faith or lack thereof of Darnold, because I just had Mahomes and Darnold rolling along. And so I wanted Herbert as more stability in that quarterback room. So yeah, I think Darnold is in a spot where you look to tier up from him, see what you can do in that regards. And I would feel more comfortable doing something like that. And then finally, I didn't want to leave out the Aaron Jones signing. Aaron Jones got 2 years for $20 million from the Vikings. So even a little more faith in Aaron Jones than in Najee Harris. Wow. So Aaron Jones is what he is, though. I mean, he performs at a high level with limited touches. You know, the guy only gets 15 to 20 touches maybe a week. But when he gets those, he makes them very useful. You can see there, running back 15 last season. Aaron Jones is somebody I would try. I mean, you could probably throw 2/3 at the Aaron Jones owner and possibly get it done. Otherwise, a mid to late second, I think, is where he's about valued right now. And if you're contending and need a running back, I think that's a good move. The running backs you're going to get there, which would be running backs, say 6 through 17, that tier that I talked about on my Mock Draft Monday show. I would prefer Aaron Jones for the immediate time, because you know what kind of points you're going to score with that. If you're rebuilding, then I would look to sell Aaron Jones for a second or even 2/3. I wouldn't mind the 2/3 because, of course, you can get good, solid running backs in that range. You could draft a running back and maybe a tight end. You can do a lot of flexibility there with good third-round picks this year in our rookie drafts. All right. So that's about all I've got for you guys today. I look forward to coming back soon with more news. Hopefully soon we'll find out who the quarterback is that will be slinging the rock to DK and possibly George Pickens as well. That should be super exciting, at least for us fans out there. Can't wait to see Aaron Rodgers and Arthur Smith going at it on the sideline. Whew, that is some tasty, juicy drama there. But if it's Russ Wilson, then we'll see some long bombs to DK there for Pittsburgh. But those are a couple of the main guys that are still out there, Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers. You've got Rico Dowdle and J.K. Dobbins. Those guys are still available as well. Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen are some wide receivers available as well, looking to be signed yet. So the running backs, unfortunately, they may have to wait. They might have to just wait until after the draft. Who knows, to get signed. So looking forward to that. I'll be back with more. Thank you for joining us in the birdhouse with our top 5 free agent moves. And just keep remembering, never stop working.